So in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination, I have been sitting with what's been stirred in me and what this moment might be showing us about where we are and what possible futures are waiting for us. I believe that this is a dire moment. And I also believe that there is an amazing opportunity for us all to grow through this, to wake up, to evolve and learn and create the future that we all actually want to live together. And to do my part in this, I do my best to live as if the universe is a mirror, to see what happens around me as a reflection of what lives inside of me. This is what I do to see myself more clearly, to uncover the lessons that are waiting for me, and to orient myself toward what I'm meant to fight for and to learn from and to embody in this life. This past week, that mirror has shown me things that I didn't want to look at. Heavy things. And mostly I have been confronted with hatred. Seeing it both in the world, but also in the ways that it shows up inside of me. So in this episode, I want to talk about what I'm learning that hate really is, and what we can do when we discover it inside of us, and how we can begin to transmute hatred into something more powerful and productive. Because if we can change the way that we meet hate in our own lives, we can change the world around us. We can shape a future that is even brighter than we can imagine right now. And I also want to say at the outset here, this episode isn't about news or politics or controversy. This episode is about you and me. It's about us. So if you're tired of the noise, don't worry. That's not what this is. My hope is that by the end of this episode, imagining what is to come might feel a little less hopeless. Stay with me. This is Reclaiming the Gentle Man. I'm Dave Lashansky. So I grew up in a household that did not tolerate anger. Both of my parents at some point learned that anger wasn't good, that it's not productive, that it's not healthy, and as a result, anger was not an acceptable emotion in my house growing up. Which of course had the effect of there being a ton of anger all around. My parents fought, my two older sisters fought. It was a constant cycle. Hurt feelings, leading to angry outbursts, leading to silencing and minimizing and shame. And there I was, sitting in the middle of it all, sitting in the chaos and just hating it. And so I learned how to deal with it. I learned that a good joke could dissipate anger. I learned that distraction worked really well. And I learned mostly that calling out the anger and shaming the perpetrators had this miraculous effect of shutting everyone up. And I was celebrated for this. I remember at an early age being called a mediator. And so, as children do, I built an identity around that. I declared anger to be beneath me. And I never got angry. I have this visceral memory of being on the playground and feeling the anger boiling up inside of me and closing my eyes and squashing it, burying it deep inside of my bones. And this worked crazy well. Kids actually called me Gandhi, which is hilarious, but it affected me deeply. I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of this ability, of this special power I felt that I had. of this process that I learned to remove anger from my life, to squash it and kill it. I liked who it made me, and I liked how it made others see me too. But when I met my fiance, and she called me into deeper presence, into a relational way of being that did not accept a non-existence of anger, I started to see all of the things along the way that I had missed. I started to see all the ways that that anger that I'd been pushing down for years had actually been leaking out sideways the whole time. How moments in my life that I was most ashamed of and avoided looking at were the ways that that anger that I believed I'd disappeared out of my body were just building and building and building until they exploded out of me. Like the time I was in the grocery store, and I asked my mom to get a kind of sugary cereal, and she says no because my dad's not going to like it. And I erupt back, saying, I wish he would die. And I meant it in that moment. And until I had to, until my partner and my relationship demanded it of me, until I worked in a container with a therapist, with my men's groups, until I worked on myself, I never connected that outburst, my coping mechanisms, my reactions, and my triggers to the fact that I had cultivated a hostile environment toward anger inside myself. It took me a lot of self-reflection to see that the anger that I was pushing down wasn't actually gone, that it was living inside of me, waiting to erupt. And I'll never forget, pretty early on, my therapist talking to me about anger. And she shared with me that anger has been the driving force of every social movement ever. That anger is a call to action, that it can be noble and just and natural. Now, for some of you, this might not be revolutionary, might not be new or exciting, because I think we're learning as a society that that strategy of pushing down emotions doesn't work very well. But many of us also never witnessed healthy expressions of anger. We never saw someone transmute anger into action without hurting others, scaring other people, intimidating or shaming other people. And that idea that anger can be good might actually be revolutionary. And I do think this moment calls us to confront that. But I want to go a layer deeper in this episode. Because anger alone is one thing. But when we're crossed, when we've been hurt or betrayed, when our trust is broken, if we've been mistreated or abused, if this has happened to us for long enough or the hurt has hit us deep enough, anger often doesn't just stay anger. Eventually, anger can turn into hate. And hate is what I'm focusing on in this episode. Because while I think we're coming to learn to deal with anger more and more, I think it's actually hate that has been boiling over in our collective for a very, very long time. And hate is what we still don't talk about, but we still shun and try to shame out of us. We squash it. We try to diminish it with our repulsion of it. I think we collectively deal with hate in the exact same way that I was dealing with my anger as a boy. I think we either shove it down and pretend that we're above it, that it doesn't exist in us, or that it erupts through us and out of us in our relationships, in our worldview, in our politics, and in our violence. And what I want to make clear in this episode is this. Hate exists in all of us. It is here, and it is natural. I genuinely believe that at some point we all must confront hate inside of ourselves. But I also don't think that hate is what we think it is. I think we often imagine it as a tool that we wield against others. as a feeling, that visceral sensation that lives in our guts or our hearts that just makes us so profoundly uncomfortable that we want to do something about it, using our words or our hands or our bodies. But hate is not a tool that we wield against others, and it's not a toxin inside of us that we have to flush away. No. Hate is a sensation that points us back into ourselves. It points us toward the hurt. It often connects us with some of the deepest pain that we have ever known, with real trauma, with the experiences that we think we're just remembering, but that we're actually reliving. The experiences that, when we do relive it, shake us and disturb us and make us believe that we're in imminent danger that we're not actually in. Our hate is connected to our trauma. And it's not just this body's trauma. It's the trauma that's been passed down to you from your ancestors too. If you've looked into epigenetics, this is what that's getting at. And part of changing our world for the better is choosing to look where it hurts and learning to hold ourselves through that. It's bringing consciousness to the moments when we don't realize that we're leaking our unprocessed emotions and our hate into our world. And one of the most important pieces in all of this is that because it's so hot, because it is so powerful and so shunned and repulsive and taboo, our hate tends to live in the blind spot. And it's often directed at ourselves, the parts of us that we wish didn't exist inside of us, the parts of us that disgust us, that we feel we have to ignore or squash because they're unacceptable, because others would hate us for it. We all have parts of us that we don't like. And directing our own hate toward that is the pattern we need to change. And so here's the reframe. Hate is not actually the tool that we wield against others, and it's not a tool we wield against ourselves. Hate is actually a sensation that is begging us to integrate the pain. And because life is hard, because horrible and horrifying things are happening in the world and tragedy happens around us, we are constantly being pointed back to that place. These days, it seems we're constantly confronting our anger and our hate. And if we don't stop to look at what is happening, we are letting hate become the outline of our future. And it doesn't have to be this way. Hate can actually be a compass to help you tend to what lives inside of you that needs your help, to integrate the trauma of your life and the lives that came before you. And to do this, you have to accept that your anger and your hatred are there to move you into action, not against other people, but in service of other people. And not by changing other people, but by looking deeply and wholly and objectively at yourself, at what lives inside of you that you think you can't yet accept, that you don't want to believe lives inside of you, that you want to remove and hide and ignore until it goes away. But that when integrated into your being, when you accept it, it will give you the access you've been craving. Decisiveness, direction, clarity, a sense of purpose and meaning in life. It's that thing that we often describe as knowing. That requires us to know ourselves first. My coach says that one of the greatest acts of love is to know yourself, and boy, does that feel true these days. Because accepting what is, what really is in this world, offers you direction about how to take action. It is the clear map, unmuddied, unclouded. It offers you presence and clarity. When you accept what is, you become open to what could be. You release the stories that keep you looping on your past hurt and pain, focusing on them, wondering why they're still here, when they'll go away, why this person made you feel that way, why they're acting that way that reminds you of that thing inside you don't like. And finally, when you accept it, to regain the most important and necessary and sought after thing that we are capable of: agency. Your capacity to choose and act, to take ownership of your life by responding with intention instead of reacting from your conditioning and your fear. Agency is the power to direct your energy as you choose and make conscious choice, to access presence in the part of your life that you most want presence. And our hate, when it's unprocessed and undealt with, when we just act on it, it makes it impossible for us to wield our agency in a way that aligns with our values and our vision of what we really want. It makes it impossible to affect the world the way that you want to. And here's why this matters. We're powerful. We are powerful, all of us. And a lot of that power gets used without consciousness, through a lens of repressed anger and hate, a lens of hurt and unconscious wounds sitting in the blind spot, driving us like a fire behind us that we have to run away from because all we know about it is that it hurts when it gets close. And there are many, many powerful leaders out there acting from wounds sitting in their blind spots, making decisions based on stories that arose from their own and their ancestors' trauma and hurt. And as a result, more people get hurt. People are dying because of this. But if we challenge those leaders, if we challenge that power with the same blindness to our own wounding and our own conditioning and our own hatred, to our ancestors' wounding, living through us, responding again in the same way, then we're trying to put out a burning house with matches. If we don't learn to be with ourselves, to use our hatred as a compass pointing us inward, inside ourselves, inside you, an individual, if we don't embark on this mission of self-knowledge and a radical self-acceptance, even if only just to see the world more clearly for what it is, if we don't do that work, then the violence we're seeing every single day is going to continue. And it doesn't have to be this way. Your anger must move you into action, but your hatred must be used as a mirror to show you what you're not seeing clearly. What lives inside of you, not other people. Use your hatred. Use it to find space for more love inside of yourself. It's not comfortable. And this is maybe the most confronting work you could do in your life. But I believe that this moment is going to be decided by how many of us are willing to see the fire all around us as an invitation to step toward the fire inside of us. To become masters of that fire, not through repression, but through transmutation. Through turning that hatred into acceptance, into love, into understanding, into an objective view of what is happening, into decisive action not born from wounds and hatred, but through a desire for all of us to have more of what we want. To see the world for what it is, as wonderfully, powerfully abundant, and not scarce and something we have to fight for. And the beautiful paradox in hatred is that it has the power to take us in two starkly different directions. On the one side, when unintegrated and unquestioned and unhonored, can keep this ball of violence and oppression and fear and struggle going and going and going. Or when we follow our hatred to the places inside ourselves that we don't yet accept, hatred can actually be the path toward more love, toward accepting and seeing clearly what is, so that we can direct our energy to change what is for the better. That hatred, wielded with the power of an adult and a desire to improve the world and to see that we are all connected, is the path to love, to that future that we most want to realize. For ourselves, for our children, for generations to come. This isn't complicated. When I was really young, I remember my family used to pray before dinner. At some point in my childhood, we stopped doing this, but I remember when we did so clearly. And oftentimes we'd end that prayer by saying, "May there be peace on earth." And as a kid, I remember thinking that peace on earth was a ridiculous wish. Not because I knew of the horrors of what was happening in the world in the 90s, but because something inside me saw that it wasn't possible in the framework that I was operating in. Without knowing it, I understood that peace without anger, without accepting all parts of who we are, wouldn't work. But now, seeing the shifts that we are capable of, seeing our world devolve and evolve at the same time, sitting with hundreds of men with all sorts of beliefs and backgrounds and politics and ways of being, sitting with couples who've been in the depths of despair together, sitting in the trenches with them, and watching us all be able to come together and navigate through those moments of despair, through looking at the worst in us and accepting what we find there and holding each other through that. Seeing all of that now, I know that peace on earth is possible. And I hear it and I see it begging to come into being. It is calling to us through the hatred. So let us be the agents for peace that we're capable of. Let's shine light on what once felt impossible to hold, on what once repulsed us, because that might now be our only hope. And let's start doing this today, right now, just by imagining what's possible, what could be. This is the work. This is the invitation in the hate inside of you and that you see inside of others and that we talk about without talking about and that we watch enacted but refuse to acknowledge for what it is. Just start by imagining. Go slowly. Find support. Do not go this path alone, but let the future that you see possible, the future that you care to create, help you reach those spots that don't feel quite attainable on your own. Those things that might live in your blind spot. That hate inside that feels way too hot to touch. Go slowly. But this is the path that I hope you'll walk with me. And I'll see you on that road. Thank you for listening to this episode. I know it might not have been a light one for you, but I hope it is a hopeful one, an optimistic one. The work that I am doing in Reclaiming the Gentle Man and my free workshops that are coming up, all of that is built on helping us access more love, on helping us accept what is more, so that we can create what we want to create better for each other and with each other. The divisiveness that we are seeing that's being targeted at us might not be quite as hopeless as we're made to believe it is. And that starts with you and you choosing to do this work in and for yourself. The container I'm offering is one of thousands, maybe millions that exist. for men, for women, for people to learn to come into more knowing of themselves. I hope you'll join me. The free workshop that I'm offering at the end of this month is titled Letting Love In, and it's all about how we can learn to accept the love that is just knocking at the door. Just like in this episode, we are often blind to that, and we often reject it without really knowing why. And in that workshop, we're going to go deep in that. It's also a great taste of what we're going to be doing inside the 21-day journey, Reclaiming the Gentleman. So I hope you will consider signing up. You can join the waitlist at davelashansky.com, and I would just love to see you in that container. I'm so excited for it. So get ready. As always, this episode was produced by me through my production company, David Benjamin Sound. You can visit us at davidbenjaminsound.com to learn more about our free podcasting workshops that we hold every month. I wish you great courage and more hope for our future. Remember that you are not alone in this. None of us are. That's all for today. I'll be back in a week.